Some of China's largest oil and gas companies are key investors LNG Operations Queensland, including CNOOC, which has a stake Shell's QCLNG project Gladstone, and Sinopec, which owns 25% of Origin Energy's Australian Pacific LNG. PetroChina is partnering with Shell the Arrow Energy Initiative, which is developing fields in the Surat Basin, southern Queensland for domestic and export gas projects. Assurances to Asian customers. The Chinese intervention came amid the improvement in trade and political relations following the Labour Party election in May. The Albanian government on Friday tried to reassure Asian customers on exports, and sources adjusted Australian domestic gas safety mechanism so that Minister can take into account risk of damaging Australia's reputation when deciding to pull so-called gas trigger. Australia remains committed to being a reliable and secure energy trading and investment partner, said Resources Minister Madeleine King. We were clear that the Australian domestic gas security mechanism remains a measure of last resort to ensure Australia has an adequate gas supply. Australia has been one of the world's largest LNG exporters over the last decade, with 83 million tonnes shipped in 2021 to 22, and we are predicted to ship a similar amount in 2024. COVID and the war in Ukraine. Inpex is aware that ADGSM reforms will not significantly impact their business, as they do not supply gas to the East Coast gas market, he said. The worker came under pressure from manufacturers and blue-collar unions divert gas to domestic market, prompting the government take step of setting an unprecedented price ceiling in December. This contributed to the near freezing of signed gas contracts and investments in new supply. Whether Australia remains a safe haven for investment. Unlucky results, Mr Ueda said on Thursday, at a special function for parliamentarians, which included Ms King and Trade Minister Don Farrell in audience, that Australia's quiet departure as one of world's largest LNG exporters is making world less climate safe during energy transition. And geopolitically it had sinister consequences. Gas industry sources privately supported and reiterated Mr Ueda's concerns on Friday. He pointed to the broader strategic implications of Australia's stepping back on gas and compromising the security of supply in Asia. Credit Suisse energy analyst Saul Kavonic said the revamped ADGSM was a policy that betrayed the Albanian government's assurances to its allies and trading partners in Asia. Gas industry CEOs, from Santos Kevin Gallagher to Senex Energy Ian Davies, have regularly highlighted critical role Australian gas exports play ensuring energy security in the Asian region, noting that restricting oil and gas projects only boosts confidence. Supply regions such as Middle East and Russia. More recently, Shell Australia's outgoing chairman, Tony Nunan, pointed out that the world is relying on Australian energy, especially as evident in the war in Ukraine. As part of reforms ADGSM rules, policy that gives government power reduce exports. Government specifically allows Minister consider Australia's reputation as a reliable LNG supplier when deciding whether curb exports. The final rules underscore that reducing LNG exports would be a last resort and provide limited assurance, agreed by some gas industry sources on Friday. However, they still allow the situation where long-term sales contracts for LNG are affected if it is absolutely necessary to avoid shortages in the domestic market. Overall, it is a policy that betrays Labour's assurances to allies and trading partners that their contracted supplies will not be curtailed at a time of the highest energy security concerns, said Mr Kavonic. Basically, the minister has complete discretion to do anything, nothing is clearly protected, said Mr Kavonic. The market direction is inevitably moving towards eventual decline, greater government control, and contract breakdown in the coming years. The new ADGSM regime was approved by the federal government in final guidelines released late Thursday, reinforcing concerns over the growing uncertainty over energy supply critical to national security. Turning towards Russia and Iran, unlikely, the updated guidelines will do little alleviate energy security concerns raised by our regional energy partners. who have invested billions of dollars in Australia bring projects life and rely on gas from these projects power the industry, reduce and protect emissions. The lights are on in the House, said Samantha McCulloch, CEO of the Oil and Gas Industry Lobby Group APPEA. William Stoltz, the Australian National University's College of National Security, a member of the Pacific Forum in Hawaii, said sanctions against Russia and Iran are unlikely to make a sudden turn on them by gas customers. There is currently an increasing premium in the global market for reliable trade and having supply chains in friendly countries, he said. In the short term, despite additional costs and regulatory burdens, Australia will still be seen as a safe place to do business. But in the longer term, Dr. Stoltz said Mr Ueda's warning cannot be erased. After all, it is a volatile market, and costs are substantial for countries.